Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily Dvar, and here's a brand new Halacha for you, and it's for Tuesday, the 12th day of April. Here we go. Today's Halacha comes with a question for you. You know that a lot of mitzvahs, like, let's take an example. The mitzvah, for example, of putting on tefillin. You make a bracha right before you do that mitzvah, and then you do the mitzvah. Same thing with putting on of tzitzis, or many things like that. And yet, when it comes to the great mitzvah of telling the story of how we left Egypt, it seems that we make no bracha before the mitzvah. You don't hear us sing a bracha of Baruch Atah Hashem L'saper B'Yetzias Mitzrayim. Blessed is God who gives us the mitzvah of telling the story of Mitzrayim. Why don't we do that? Well, there are many answers to that question. One of the answers is that the kiddush, the actual kiddush that you make at the beginning of the seder, could actually serve as the bracha for the telling of the story of Mitzrayim. That is one of the answers given to that question. Also, there is another bracha in the middle of the seder, and it's the bracha of Asher Ga'alanu. Blessed is God who redeemed us from Egypt. And some people say that that is the bracha for the great mitzvah of telling the story of Mitzrayim. Now, but I'm going to tell you a third answer, which is categorically different than the first two, and that is that no bracha is proper. You should not say a bracha before you tell the story of Mitzrayim, and I'll tell you why. You probably have noticed that one of the mitzvahs that we don't ever make a bracha on is the mitzvah of giving tzedakah. You don't have a poor man in front of you and say, "Blessed is God, King of the universe, etc., who gave us the mitzvah to give charity," and then put the coin in the poor man's hand. We don't do that. Do you know why? Some people say that the reason we don't do that is because you can't actually be certain that the charity is about to happen, because the poor man might not accept your donation. When you're about to put on tefillin, you know, I'm making the bracha on tefillin, and I intend, it's up to me, and I intend to put on tefillin right away, so it kind of jives. I make the bracha right before I put on tzitzis, and I'm for sure going to put on tzitzis. But the poor man, well, that kind of depends on his receiving your gift, and he might feel that it's too embarrassing or too little or whatever, and he might turn down your gift. And therefore, you can't make a bracha on the giving of charity. Well, similarly, you can't make a bracha, perhaps, on the telling of the story of Mitzrayim, because, oh yes, you could sit there at your table and blabble and talk away, but you need your point to get across to the listener, and it might not get across to the listener, and so you might not fully, effectively accomplish the mitzvah of telling the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, of the leaving of Egypt, because your listener might not be paying attention to you. That is the answer that some give to that question. The mitzvah is not totally in my control, and therefore I can't exactly make a bracha on that mitzvah. But you learn an important point from that, and that is, when you tell the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim to the people of the leaving of Egypt, to the people around your Seder table, you got to do your utmost to make certain that you have listeners, that you're making it interesting, that you're making it relevant to them, and that everybody gets what you're saying, and you're not just reading a bunch of stuff that nobody gets. That certainly is the mitzvah, as we see from this explanation. Try to make certain that the story is relevant to you, it's relevant to your listeners, and you're telling it in the most interesting possible way so that this story remains with the Jewish people forever. Thanks for logging on. Log on again tomorrow for more. Bye-bye.